Hello, and welcome to She Leads Biotech, the podcast that celebrates the achievements of women in the bioscience space. I'm your host, Sharon Cox, CEO and Managing Director of CNA International, a boutique search firm based in New York. Each week, I have the privilege of learning from incredible leaders as they share their stories. Together, we celebrate their triumphs, explore their challenges, and uncover their vision for the future of bioscience. Our conversations also provide invaluable insights into how women can unlock their unique superpowers and succeed on their own terms. So, whether you're just starting your journey in bioscience, contemplating your next career move, or simply passionate about science and innovation, this podcast is here to empower, inspire, and guide you. Today's guest is an innovative entrepreneur, a rule breaker, and a passionate advocate for women in underrepresented communities. Her campaign, Rooting for You, provides a platform for women to celebrate their accomplishments, set ambitious goals, and build a supportive network that's rooting for their success. She's embarking on a project to deliver stem cells kits to 9th graders in schools in India, and is taking her company global this year with a new office being launched in Riyadh. To tell us about her journey and her plans for the future, please welcome co-founder of Assurea, Tanya Sharma. Hey, Tanya, good afternoon.
Nice to meet you.
And you. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to talk to me. You pop up everywhere where I see things are happening. It's very interesting following your journey, and I'd like to kind of just get a general feel as to how your journey started and what the road looked like as you went along it, but really then to focus on the company that you founded, Assurea. You're in year 3 of that now, I think, aren't you?
Yes.
But first of all, talk to me about your journey. What brought you on this path?
Yeah. So, I'm an immigrant. I came to the US when I was 5, and I'm sure you can relate to coming to the US as well. I come from a very big Indian family from Delhi, from the army background. And then my mom got a role as a biology teacher in the US. So that's how I came to the US, to North Carolina. And I think STEM was always a very big part of my life because of my mom.
Yep.
And just like as a single parent, like it was just always the focus was, STEM, STEM, STEM. So then I went to North Carolina State University, and I did chemical engineering there. And so after that, I really wanted to get out of North Carolina and go somewhere completely different. So then I was part of ISPE, which is International Society of Pharmaceutical Engineering. And through that network, I got my first job in consulting as a validation engineer. I moved to the West Coast. I stayed there for a couple of years. Then I moved to Singapore, worked at Novartis. And then when I came back to the US, I wanted to do something completely different. So I joined my uncle's business, which is in hotels. And
Okay.
he was and he's very, sink or swim. Like he was just like, here are the keys. Like you can figure it out. And I did that for 2 years. And it was like a full service Marriott hotel, and very challenging. But I think that really then connected the dots for me because I wanted to go back into biotech. But because of that hotel entrepreneurship experience, I was 26, and just like that experience changed my trajectory a little bit, where I wanted to come back, but on my own terms. That's how Assurea was born, because my co-founder and I had been talking about there's different ways that we could do this consulting model where we can actually improvise on like traditional consulting models as well. So then, it all connected the dots. And then I started Assurea with my co-founder in 2021.
What
So
exactly is Assurea? What is it that you do?
So we provide IT, CSV services for startups, softwares, and large scale projects in pharmaceuticals. So remediation work for IT, CSV, validation remediation. And then also we're launching a new service end of this month, actually, for emerging tech. So implementing custom AI solutions for biotech companies. So we're a digital compliance firm.
Okay, all right. So you go to their companies, or do they come to you? How does that work?
So we go to we go to companies and then we remediate, their valid like we remediate their system. So we validate their systems to meet
Right.
regulatory requirements.
Okay. To make sure that they're compliant.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
My first
You can tell I need schooling in this, can't you?
It's definitely like a very niche area, digital compliance, and now I feel like as the technology continues to advance and there's a lot of, AI powered software, there's so much of like decentralization in how our data is shared. We continue to see that there's compliance requirements because we need guardrails as our information continues to be everywhere as
Yep.
well. Our first client, by the way, was in the UK.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah,
Would I
yeah.
know them? Who is it?
So our first client was Adaptimmune.
Okay. That name seems familiar to me. I don't know why, but well,
Yeah.
there you go. And my first client here was in New York, so
Oh,
so
is
there
that
you go.
is that why you moved to the US for work?
No, I actually, well, I moved for work. I moved here to I'd always wanted to live in New York. That was the thing.
Wow,
It was to be a Broadway star and win a Tony Award, but that didn't quite pan out. So,
that's
um,
so amazing.
and as I'd been in recruitment for so many years, it seemed easy to open a recruitment company. But I knew nobody. I didn't know. I had no clients, no contacts,
Yeah,
no connections, no anything. So it was just a case of starting from scratch. And I got my first client in New York, and then
yeah.
another one in New Jersey, and by the time COVID hit, it was like easy to just go across the US. So it was a very
Wow.
interesting time. But enough about me. Let's continue to talk about you. What I know that there's one arm of your business that I've seen has a very big impact, and I know it's something that's very important to you. Um, is it rooting for you? Is that
Rooting for you, yes.
root? Yeah. Talk to me about that, because that's very involved in women, female empowerment across the board. What took you down that road, and what is it that you do there?
Yeah, so when I started my business, I was part of Women in Pharma for ISPE. We're one of the founding partners for Viat, for Facilitate as well. And I wanted to continue to give back as my journey evolves as well.
Uh,
And I think that, given starting a new business and getting all the support that I did in, people giving me a platform to really speak about what we are doing and, rooting for us. Like I wanted to pay it forward.
yep,
So we created this campaign called Rooting for You to get more women and underrepresented groups endorsed for their ideas. And what the campaign's focus is on goal setting. So, a lot of times we attend webinars or panel discussions, or it's like, how do you take that and emulate it back into your life? So what we did was we have tons of research that we did on the goal setting framework that we wanted to include in our journal prompts. That's available on our website. Anybody can download the journal prompts as well. We partner with organizations to host workshops, and then we also sponsor STEM kits for children in India. We're starting with that first, and we're starting with ninth graders because in India, in ninth, I'm not sure if in the UK it's the same, but it's, ninth grade, you pick if you want to do science or not in 11th and 12th.
Yeah, I
So,
don't know what I don't know what the grades are in relation to years. So
yeah.
where in the UK where kids get to choose whether they want to I just remember the age I was that I dumped science because it didn't work for me. So I think that's around about 13, 14.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that, yeah? And
Yeah.
then you whatever route, whatever journey you take, those are the ones you take the exams at kind of 15, 16.
Yeah, yeah. So
Right.
that's why we wanted to focus on the ninth graders because, that's where they're going to make those choices for 11th and 12th grade. So we're partnering up with different organizations to sponsor classrooms. But also, as part of the classroom, they have STEM kits related to physics, related to food science, related to biotech experiments, so that they get a bit more curious about what the potential is in biotech.
Well, that's incredible because I have to say, I'm sure if somebody had made science interesting. I mean, I don't know whether
Yeah,
it just wasn't my vibe or what, but I did not find science interesting at all. I was too busy in the drama club and stuff like that. But I do think initiatives like yours and those
yeah,
initiatives that get kids and get their interest in these subjects at that sort of age can make
yeah.
such a difference as to whether they do continue it on. So kudos to you. That's
Thank
amazing.
you.
And do they have the same thing for kids in US schools?
I think in the US, even in college, we take general electives. So there it's like always part of our curriculum to
Right.
do some foundations in science. Like we don't have to make that choice of, taking commerce or taking a STEM-based field. Like my cousin, for example, she's in India, and my grandma in October got a stroke, so then she was the main caretaker for my grandma, but she now wants to go back into STEM because then it's a relatable experience. You have something that you want to then go back and study and be part of. If there's things that are relatable and people get curious and you can understand how it impacts your own life, I think that there's going to be a lot more interest
Yeah,
with people.
absolutely. No, I completely agree with that. Well, that's great that you do that. Um, and what else does the project do?
So, also with the goal setting, that's really big for us where we've done rooting for you workshops that facilitate for the Wyatt events, for women in quality, and then companies like pharmaceutical companies that want to have a practical way of setting realistic goals and having that community driven initiative as well. So that's something that's been really great to see how people, are using the prompts and setting up their goals, especially we're in February now. So
I
it's a
should
good
I should get round to mine at some point.
do you have any New Year, do you believe in like New Year resolutions?
No, why put myself through something I'm only going to break? So I don't. I like to think I set goals,
Yeah,
and maybe don't use the word resolution,
yeah,
because a resolution is to me seems very final. I have to
yeah,
resolve not to do such and such, and I'm not that disciplined, unfortunately. Um, but I think setting a goal, then it's fine because the goal can evolve. And it doesn't have to
yeah,
be, if you haven't achieved that goal by that time, you can be on a chunk towards it, but the goal is probably 12 months down the road, and then you have the sort of bite-sized pieces
Yeah,
along the way to
exactly.
get to the goal. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like I think we only have like 1 or 2% in a day that we can control. And sometimes I think we set goals that are very long term, but if there's not like the smallest action that you can take towards them, then it necessarily doesn't get the momentum that
Yep.
it needs to
Yep.
accomplish that.
And the courses that you do on this, they're just for women, or can men take part in them as well? Because I'm sure men need help with setting goals equally.
Yeah, so it's it is overall to promote women in underrepresented groups, but we have our ambassador series that I have to actually send you the questions as well because we would love for you to be an ambassador for our Rooting for You campaign. Um, so that's we have so many men that are part of our campaign, are part of our ambassador series as well. So it's always helpful, especially having everyone involved for something like this, because then you can also see if you're on a team, and especially in STEM related topics, you can see what's holding someone back. You understand their thought process, you understand how they're constructing their own limiting beliefs. And I think it really helps understand each other better as
Yep.
well, of what our fears are.
Yep. Absolutely. Oh, well, I wish you every success with that. And
Thank
anything
you.
that I can do to help, I'm more than happy to do. Um,
Thank you so much.
One thing I want to talk about your journey as a co-founder, and your role within Assurea. I'm not going to ask you your age because I don't want to go down that road. I just know you're considerably younger than I am. So, um, but what did you
Yeah.
find going in as a a leader within a company, and the decisions that you have to make, and the job
Yeah.
that you're doing? What did you find was particularly challenging, if any?
There is a lot of challenges. As you said, like it was more of I am younger, starting my own company. My first client was in the UK, and everything was moving. I'm very grateful for that, where it's like it was moving in a really fast pace. And it was very easy to get very analytical about it, to say that, oh, I need to promote myself more. I used to look at self promotion very differently than I do now. I think we see LinkedIn and we see everybody on LinkedIn, and then there's just like your goal, like post shifts, and you're like, oh, maybe I'm not posting enough, or maybe I'm not promoting myself enough. So it's like there's always this constant battle of, are you doing enough? So then my mindset really changed to, you know, I don't need to do as much either. I can just focus on 4 or 5 things that I know that I want to do, but I'm not going to be like, it's like progress over perfection. So, that really was the challenge that I had internally. Because I think also as women, we're always taught to, okay, you need to make sure you're advocating for yourself, but then it just becomes a chore rather than just being authentically present as
Yep.
well. It's a lot of pressure.
And what did you? How many of you are there in the company? Is there? Do you have a
So we
team of
have
people?
Yeah, so we have about 50 contractors
Okay.
on the team, and then it's a mix of full-time and contractors. And the we are going to continue to have this model because a lot of the work that we do is project specific as well. So there's a lot of independent contractors that are in different parts of the world, that we can then have that like connection with, and work on like projects with as well. So we're going to Riyadh in the summer, so we are opening up an office in Riyadh, so we're very excited for that.
Oh wow. Okay. And what drove that? Was that that was a project that came through, so that drove you to go there, or have you identified a gap in a market there?
It was more of identifying a gap in the market there. I think that whole area is growing really fast. And I
Right.
think that, especially with the work that we do in digital compliance, there's so many companies using AI now that there's a big need for compliance support as well. So, we're going to go. You're welcome to join us if you want to come to Riyadh.
I'm about to really show my ignorance because, along with science, geography was never one of my strongest suits either. So I'm not entirely sure where Riyadh is.
It's a Middle East.
I figured
So
that, but it's
yeah,
not in Dubai. It's different to Dubai, right?
it's like a 2-hour flight from Dubai.
Okay.
So yeah, different from Dubai, but very close.
Okay, so I was at least in the right part of the world. That
Yes.
makes me feel so much better. I'm thinking, how do I let her know that I'm sure that sounds really exciting of going to Riyadh, but I'm not entirely sure where it is. But I was pretty close. That's okay. It makes me feel better.
Yeah, you were very close.
Okay, and what's the flight like from here to there,
So
from the
I
US?
am going to go to India to see my grandmother. And then from India, then it's a 4-hour flight to Riyadh. And then from Riyadh, because we have business in Europe as well, I'm gonna spend some time in London, and France, and then come back here. So it's like a 7 week.
Oh wow, check you out. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's gonna be. How was Dallas? You went to Dallas as well, right?
It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't what I expected Dallas to be. Now, bearing
Yeah.
in mind that my only real experience of Dallas was from an 80s TV show, um,
Yeah.
where that you weren't even born when it was showing. But and so, to me, it was all about ranches and cow hands and things like that. And
Yeah.
I just it was just lots of buildings, a bit like Milton Keynes to me. I don't know if you've ever been to Milton Keynes in the
Yeah, yeah.
UK.
Yeah.
So it's just concrete and roundabouts and flyovers and stuff. So, but the Facilitate conference itself was very very good, and the Wyatt piece
Yeah.
was great. I really love meeting those women, and they're so passionate. I just think we need to get some more men in there next time for
Yeah.
open that out a bit more. So, but yeah, it was great fun, and of course I know where Dallas is because I that was able to go there. So that was one thing I can tick off my list as to my journey around the 50 states of the
Oh,
US. So that was another one I can tick off. So I'm actually getting further through the states than I thought I was going to. So
that's
um, yeah,
amazing.
but I'm getting around. Clearly not as far away as you are with all the places you're visiting. But that's
Mhm.
how do you manage your time to do all of those sorts of things?
That's a really good question. I think that I definitely take Saturdays off. I do work Sundays. But I I don't put a lot of limits to myself. And I think that's why I really want to advocate for the programs that we're launching because I don't think about plan Bs. This is my plan A, this is what I'm gonna do. And then I know that there's going to be lots of rejection on the way, but that's not gonna deter me from what I'm doing. And that's something early on that I just continue to not be as risk averse, which really worked in my favor because if I was, and if when I got Adaptimmune as a client or when we were working in France or all these things that were happening,
Yeah,
I would have thought that maybe this isn't a good time to take
right.
those opportunities. But to think about plan B in my head, if you're thinking about plan B, you're already thinking of failing. So
Yeah.
I stuck to it to be like, I want to take over the world with Assurea. So
Fantastic. And you mentioned the rejections and things that
yeah.
are coming or did come or whatever. What was some of the rejection areas and how did you overcome them?
So One of them is being age, like I think that a lot of open conversations we needed to have, but I think age was a big one because there were who is the most experienced in your company, like those are the kind of questions that I had to navigate and not take as personal either, but
Yep.
be like, okay, well, like I would love to show you the resumes that we have, I would love to show you the work that we have, I made them into just character building as well. But yeah, so age was a big rejection. Then competing with companies that have been established for a very long time. So, how do you compete in this market with people that are doing really amazing work?
Yep.
So a lot of that as well.
And how do you compete with that?
So I think for us, our biggest strength has been being very transparent that, this is what we are doing, this is what we have experience in, this is what you're gonna get. Like it's very transparent of what we do. And I think that's been a great success for us. And also not having people that we just have on the bench and then place for projects. It's more of like we're getting them the right fit for their projects because
Yep.
we're working with contractors as well. So
Okay.
that's been a great differentiator. And then being tech forward too, like the AI custom solutions that we're offering. But I'm part of the GAMP ISPE steering committee, and that's been a great experience. And if anybody wants to learn more about just, how technology is going to evolve, it's a great group to be involved in as well.
Okay, perfect. So, and I think that's the key thing is you compete with these bigger, more established companies
Yeah.
by your transparency on what your differentiator is, right?
Yeah.
Which is very similar to me in my business. Obviously, I'm
Yeah.
just a small boutique firm, and there's obviously lots of big search firms out there. But I think the important thing is look, this is who I am, and this is what I've done for
Exactly.
45 years.
Yeah.
And if I can't do it, I'll tell you I can't do it. But if I tell you I can, I'll deliver.
Yeah.
And I think people appreciate that honesty, even if it's nothing more than to put you to the test.
Yeah.
To say, okay, well, let's see if you can do it. So I totally get with that. So,
Yeah.
what does the future look like for you and for Reassure? I mean, obviously, you're 3 years in.
Mhm.
What's your 5 year plan?
I think us growing our presence, growing our footprint in different places, we're very excited for that. And then, we're also going into like as the in our emerging technology division, growing that, but then also like preventative healthcare. So we are launching an initiative in India this year, end of this year, and starting with South Asian population first, but it's for diagnostics, where
Okay.
a lot of the comprehensive blood work that we do sometimes doesn't cover the biomarkers that we need to know if we have insulin resistance or we need to watch our sugar more. So, we're targeting a lot more of the chronic diseases in South Asian populations first and providing this comprehensive testing for some of these that don't cover by regular blood tests, and
Okay.
then diet plan and then all of that. So it's more for preventative healthcare. How do you then, like I was telling you, like my grandma got the stroke, but if maybe we had communicated that your blood sugar is this, your blood pressure is this is what it means,
Yep.
then maybe it would have helped. But I think that communication isn't there, sometimes.
Also, the work of people for preventative
Yeah.
medicine, right? Because then you don't get to those points further down the road. So,
Yeah.
so that sounds to me like something. It's not a one and done. It's we need to follow this through
Yeah.
to be on that journey with those people that we're reaching.
Yeah, and like personalized information is so important,
Yep.
because what might be triggering for you in your diet might be very different for me. But we want to be able to make informed choices about our health, and take the measures that we can as well. Like just a study for alcohol, for example, that came out, and alcohol and breast cancer. And it's like just those things that I think are something that we don't necessarily think about as much, but I would love to have that platform for people to just understand what it means and the impact of it.
But is there a danger with that of things come out and give
Yeah.
links to whatever
Yeah.
alcohol and breast cancer? Well, of course I don't want breast cancer, but you know how much vodka can I drink now or not
Yeah.
drink, or do you know what I mean? So it's getting that balance,
Absolutely.
right? Because otherwise you can move into more scare tactics
Yeah.
of and particularly for women. I think women take things much more to heart in terms of, oh, should I be doing that or should I not be
Yeah.
doing that? Whereas men tend to be like, oh, well, whatever, if I do,
Yeah.
I do. Um, but it's getting that balance right so that it is the right message getting across for the right audience and the right demographic of people that are likely to be affected by something.
Yeah.
Y-
Yeah. Like as long as we know our risk factors, you
Yeah,
know, because I think that you're never gonna know the absolute. I mean, people, there's so many things that happen to us. We can just walk down the street and something can happen. But I think it's
5 us, right? Yeah.
yeah, but it's like the risk, like just being informed about the risk factors itself, I think is good. And I think there's some work that we could do in, testing for like our fasting glucose or our insulin resistance, just very minimum work, but at least understanding how our at least being informative about those like couple of tests that I think would be helpful in making those choices. But yeah, I enjoy my wine. I'm not giving that up.
Absolutely. And do you think AI can play a big part in that? Because I know, I recently had my annual mammogram, and they now have an AI enhanced facility whereby the radiologist and whoever the
Yeah.
experts are that view this, but they also put the images through an AI system that then tells you what your likelihood is based on what they see. This is your likelihood of developing breast cancer in your lifetime, and
Yeah.
mine was something like 4%, and I was like, oh wow, phew, I feel
That's
much better
helpful.
about that now,
Yeah.
But if there were things like that were available for all sorts of things, that might
Yeah.
help in one way, that somebody who is at high risk to have actually something that says, mm, you're at high risk of that, for the chances are, you know,
Yeah.
25% that something's going to happen, could be an incentive for people to then make the changes that they need to make,
Yeah.
rather than it just being, you're fine at the moment, your heart's fine at the moment, or this is fine
Yeah.
at the moment. um, you're more likely to be, oh, okay, well then I'm good, right? But if you've got something through that's an enhanced through
Yeah.
AI that says, well, yeah, you're okay now, but the chances of something happening in your lifetime are this, you might be more aware of that, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so, this happened to me actually, as well. So I do think AI can play a big role as long as we have representative data.
Yep.
That's the key. Where is there enough diverse data available for us to make those inferences?
Yep.
And I think with LLMs and open source information, there is, but as long as like the recruitment of the data sets is diverse, I think it has great potential.
Yep.
For me, this actually happened like a week and a half ago. It was very scary. I I have dense tissue, And, at my age, you don't necessarily do mammograms.
Yep.
And, insurance doesn't cover mammograms, you don't do it. But I went to my doctor because I was freaking out and I was like, I want to get a mammogram done. So I got a mammogram done. And then I asked ChatGPT that, okay, I drink this amount of alcohol a week. And then the study had just came out as well. And I was like, what are my chances of having a dense tissue, no family history, but alcohol? And what is my risk factors? And it increased to 20% of
Oh,
my but it's also because like I was just like prompting it to tell me the
yeah.
case. But
Yeah.
if there was an actual AI model that could tell me like this is like how you're saying that for you it was like 4%, I think it's really helpful.
Yeah, and that was based on factual information because it's
Yeah,
looking at an image of your breast as it is
yeah,
there and then, and it's making a calculation based on what it sees. So
yeah,
I think that, you know, if there are more tests like that,
absolutely.
otherwise you're in danger of AI becoming a little bit like WebMD.
Yeah,
And, you give enough prompts along the way that your mind is thinking,
yeah,
and you'll get the answer that you want to hear, even though it's not the right one, and it's going to scare the bejesus out of you.
yeah,
It's that kind of thing. So
yeah.
a place for it, but in the right
In the right,
setting.
yeah, absolutely. With
Okay.
guardrails, I think that, like, someone like me shouldn't be going to ChatGPT and asking, these questions to then make my risk factors be 20%.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd say you'd be better off having the enhanced AI
Exactly.
examination of your breast. That would probably give you a more accurate picture.
Yeah,
So, my final question to you, because I'm very appreciative of your time, but I'm also respectful of your time. You are very young.
mm,
Um, you've done a huge amount, and you're still continuing to do a huge amount. You're very driven. I can see that. Um, what is your advice to people who are just thinking about coming into the sector like you have?
yeah, I think not to have self-imposing beliefs. That would be my advice. I think because we have different cultures and, societal pressures or internal battles that we face, I think that we put so much on ourselves of what we can and cannot accomplish. And I
Mm,
think if there's a pain point that we see, like whether it's a new idea, whether it's a new company, or a new way of working, like we just need to go for it rather than fear like, oh, we might not know 100%, so we should know. It's the same thing with the studies of resumes, like women and men applying for the same positions where like a woman would want like 100% match or 90% match or something, and men it's like 50 or 60%.
or 40.
Yeah,
But yeah, totally understand. And I think that that's a really good, um, it's a really good piece of advice. Um, because from this podcast constantly it
yeah,
is the women we do doubt ourselves in
yeah,
areas. We do think, well, I don't know if I can do all of that, so maybe I shouldn't do any of it if I can't do all of it. And the secret is really having that single-minded self-belief. It's not
yeah,
a question. It's not a question of will I, won't I, what's plan B,
yeah,
what's plan. It's this is the journey I'm on, and this is the journey that I've chosen to be on, and I'll make it happen.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I always ask myself this question. It's one of my journal prompts. And it's like, do I want to experience this in fact or in theory? And that helps me align a lot more of, because I might have some internal bias that I'm feeling in that moment. But then it's like, okay, I don't know how this is going to go. I need to try it. And it's not the end of the world. Like if it's not successful, it's not successful. Like you move on. It's like
Yep.
I look at it as like transactions, of like we are going to have so many experiences in life, but I always ask myself that question that, I want to experience it. In fact, I don't want to assume, I don't want to overthink things. I just want to see it and see if it works. And if it does, it's great. If it's not, then you find something else.
Right. Excellent. Well, I think that's a marvelous philosophy for us to end this
Yeah.
conversation on. I think you're an incredible young woman, and I don't mean
Thank
that in any kind of
you.
patronizing way whatsoever. I see the stuff that you do via LinkedIn and things that you're involved in, and I think that it's clear that you have a path and you're taking that,
Thank
and I
you.
wish you every success. I look forward to staying in touch and following your journey, and if I find I've got a few days free and want to see what
Yeah.
Riyadh is really like, I'll let you know and get on that
Yeah.
plane.
I have a question for you as well.
Oh,
This
okay.
is really like, what is one thing that if like we were talking a year from now, and then what is one thing that you're like, this is what I want to be celebrating next year, a year from now?
Probably still being alive, Tanya. That would be.
With the 4% risk
That's a very good question. What would I want to be celebrating?
a
Um,
year from now, yeah.
I think the I mean I love the podcast. This was
Yeah.
done really as a 10 episode one and done. Thank you very much. And it really seems to be resonating
Yeah.
with people, and I'm thrilled about that. So to have continued success with that would be great. And if I can be celebrating the next innovation that's come through, to actually be able to sit down with somebody and celebrate a major achievement in science that's happened in my lifetime would be incredible.
That's amazing. Well, I look forward to following your journey as well. So
We'll
thank you
follow
so
each other's. No,
Yeah.
thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure, and good luck with everything else that you do.
Thank you.
All
Have
right.
a good
Take good care.
weekend.
Bye bye. That wraps up today's episode of She Leads Biotech. I hope you enjoyed this conversation and found inspiration in the stories shared. Remember, the success of every woman can inspire another, so don't hesitate to share yours. She Leads Biotech is brought to you by CNA International USA, a woman-owned boutique search firm specializing in sourcing talent for small and emerging bioscience companies across the US, from our headquarters in New York. For more information about our services, feel free to reach out at contact@cnaint.com. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. And until next time, stay bold, stay brilliant, and continue pioneering progress for women in bioscience.